so the unit we're looking at is prepare for work in the building construction industry. And what we're hoping is that you guys will be able to pick up the information from here and then be able to complete the worksheets and the assessments that we've got for you. So we'll move on. So firstly, this unit's really about what work can I do in the building construction industry and how do I get to that point. So obviously you've done this course, whether you've done it in a vet or you've done it in the Cert 2 building, you'll be wanting to know, how do I move on from this course to be able to get a job in the industry and to work in this amazing industry that is the building industry. It's in a boom time right now. There's amazing things happening, amazing opportunities for you. We want to be able to help you identify those opportunities and how you can jump into them and hopefully get a job. So the first thing is to identify the streams and sectors. So there's different sectors in the building industry. The domestic building sector, so that's building houses and residences. There's renovations and extensions, so that's taking existing houses, pulling them apart and rebuilding them and creating a better, more livable space. And then there's also the commercial and industrial sector. Commercial also takes in the building of high-rise apartments and office complexes in the cities and that type of work as well, which is quite different to the domestic housing market. Also within that is is jobs like project management, more into architecture, and some students from our courses at Cert 2 have gone on into university and completed engineering degrees or architecture, and that's a good place to start in your course you're in now to be able to progress into those things later on. So what are the job roles that we have within the building industry? There's a lot of different job roles, and so you understanding what those job roles are and what you might be able to apply for in terms of the work that you want to do. So there's a lot of different ones, and on the screen here you can see we've got things like bricklaying, plumbing, electrical work, plasterers, carpenters, and general construction workers or labourers. That's just a few of them. I'll go to another screen in a moment. But these are opportunities that you have coming out of a course like the one you've done. You need to have an understanding of the building industry and how it works in order to be able to go into these other trades. And so having what you've done in this course behind you will give you that good grounding to know some of the skills that you might need. Some of the other areas that you might want to move into, things like concreting. There's a big demand for concreters, same as bricklayers, to work in those sorts of areas to be able to do concrete construction, as well as driveways and roadways and retaining walls, and lots of opportunities in that area. Roof tiling and roofing is a specialised industry now, and you could move into that also. Tiling is another one, so the big demand for people who can do tiling to floors and walls and bathrooms and kitchens, those sorts of things. And also there we've got some cabinet makers on the screen, and that's a big industry as well, where if you prefer to work indoors and you don't like being outside, it's a great one to support the building industry working indoors. The other one that's not on, I haven't got a picture of, is glazier work, which is basically producing windows and then going out onto jobs and glazing, doing those sorts of glazing. So these are all opportunities that you have available to you in the building industry. So the great thing is that it's a very varied industry, and you might start off in one place. I did. I started off as a cabinet maker and then worked through to become a carpenter and then became a registered builder, and I moved into the building industry through that route, and then obviously came into teaching. And so there's a lot of pathways in the building industry that allow you to progress and to do many varied and different things. Our friend Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb. He certainly was at the forefront of a lot of inventions back in his day, and his statement there, opportunities missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. In order to progress in the building industry, we have to understand that there are roles and responsibilities within that industry that we need to meet in order to be successful. How do you get into a job in the construction industry? So you can do it a number of ways, through work experience, so working with an employer, getting the experience and then moving in that way. Getting an apprenticeship, which is obviously the ideal. The apprenticeship takes you across 4 years of training, working with in a supervised capacity, so that you're learning the trade that you're doing along the way, so that ultimately you can come out of that training having the knowledge and skills that you need. The best thing to do is to talk to people. Talk to people who are in the industry, get to know as many people as you can. network with people who have a like mind, who've got an interest in the things that you're interested in. So talking to people is the best thing you can do. Get to know a builder or a tradesperson. If you don't have a family member or don't know somebody that's in the building trade, get to know someone that is. Ask around, ask your friends and family, and I'm sure they'll be able to tell you. Write your resume. So who are you, and why should, if I was an employer, why should I employ you? Think about that. So have a look at your resume, and then improve your work ethic and your skills. So employers are looking for people who are happy to work, who want to work, who are prepared to learn new things and apply themselves, and that's what's really appealing to all employers. So what are our industry expectations? In any career, there's going to be expectations about what you can do and what an employer is going to expect. So what are they looking for? So in the building industry, you can expect when you go into a job that you're going to start work somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. You're going to work through till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You may have to do weekend work or even evening work. Your breaks are going to be like 10 minutes. Some may be a little bit longer depending on who you're working for. And lunch times are around 30 minutes to an hour, depending on who the employers are. What would you wear to work? So if you're working in the building industry, it's a dirty job. Let's face it. It's not an office clean job. You're going to get dirty. So you need to wear appropriate clothing. You need personal protective equipment. You need the types of things that are going to work for the industry that you're working in. So you need work boots, trade type pants with pockets that you can put all your bits and pieces in. If you're working outdoors, protective clothing from the weather. A lot of older tradesmen suffer from skin cancer late in life because they didn't protect themselves from the sun and worked outdoors all the time. You'll need some basic tools. So when I started my apprenticeship, I bought about a few $100s worth of basic tools. Had hammers and saws and things like that, the basic things that I would need. But as you develop in your apprenticeship and in your trade, you'll buy more. And the more you can buy will actually enable you to know your own tools, to look after them and to have them serviceable for the entirety of your trade career. You'll be much more attractive to an employer if you go along and say, well, I have my own tools, or I have this, I have that. They're going to see that you're serious about wanting to be in this trade. The last one there is about duty of care on the building site. So one of the expectations is that we understand the need to be safe on the building site, and we do as part of our training here the CI card, and that's an important part of that. But an employer wants to know that you're the sort of person that they can rely on and trust in their workplace to make sure that this is a safe place to work. So how do I go about it? Where do I find jobs? So employment agencies can help. Also, there's a lot of online employment places that you can go, and there's a bit of a list of some of the ones in this area that you could go to talk to them about what opportunities there are available for work. Work experience is the trump card. The more experience you can get in the workplace, the more experience you can get with different employers. You can do some labouring, looking for part-time work if you're still at school. Getting a job at Bunnings is a great place to start if you want to pursue a career in the building industry. And finally, to get an apprenticeship. And to get an apprenticeship, the best thing most employers want to know is, are you conscientious? Are you a worker? Are you somebody that can be relied on? And the more that you can present yourself in that way and be the type of person that they can rely on, the better for you, because they're going to see you as somebody that they can train and that it's worth them putting their time into. What are some of the barriers? Now, we all have barriers. We all have different things going on in our lives that we struggle with. So some of the things that you might find as a barrier for you, the first one might be just your mental health. It might be your sense of well-being, and anything that you can do to help develop those things within yourself and your own security are worthwhile. And one of the ways that you can do that is through study, is through the more you learn, the more confident you become. And we have counsellors and people available at TAFE that can help you. So if you struggle with anxiety or you struggle with those types of things, certainly talk to us and we can help point you in the right direction. Because those things, they do become barriers to our employment later in life, and the sooner we can deal with them. We all have stuff goes on in our lives, and the sooner we can deal with that, the better. Your budget might be an issue, and there's so many now incentives for employers to put on an apprentice. A lot of employers in the past would go, it's too expensive, but the government is encouraging it. So they're actually paying employers to put apprentices on. So it's a good time to look for an apprenticeship in the building industry. And the last one there, the guy in his 3D glasses and his popcorn, is just our own laziness. If we're really honest, we all like to kick back, relax and take it easy, but often we need to apply ourselves be prepared to work and be prepared to put in order to achieve something in life. So how do we do it? We need to plan. So how do we do all this? So the who, what, when, where, why scenario. So who am I and what do I want in life? What do you want in life? What are the things that you value in life? And looking at how the building industry can help you achieve the things that you want. Develop something that you can look back on with pride and say, well, I've done that. And certainly that was my motivation in this industry, was to be able to drive down the streets of Warrnambool and see houses that I've built and places that I've had an impact on, and see those things hopefully outlast me as well. But what do you want in life? What is it that you're looking for? If you can work that part out, it'll help you determine the career you want. What do you want to be doing every day? Do you want to be outside or inside? Do you mind a bit of dirt, or do you want to be clean? And those sorts of things. Are you good at certain things? Are you good at maths? So therefore electrical might be more where you're suited. So there are certain things that you will be able to analyse that will help you with your career planning. When do you hope to achieve your goals? When would you like to be a tradesman? Would you prefer to go to university and do those things and maybe do it later in life, or to get into it early? I certainly got in early. I was apprentice at 16 and got on with it, and it's been a great career for me. Where do you hope to be in 5 to 10 years? So what do you hope, if you were to look back in 5 to 10 years, what would you hope to have achieved in that time? What are you going to do about it? So that's probably the biggest question out of all of these, is what am I going to do in order to achieve these goals, and being able to set a bit of a plan in place and look at why should you do it? Well, the main reasons I can suggest to you is it's a great industry in terms of income, it's a great industry in terms of lifestyle, and it's a great industry in terms of the way that you're treated. And then how am I going to start? Where do you start from? Sometimes you just need to make a start and start moving and see where you end up. So you'll need to prepare a resume. So your resume wants to be clear and concise and be able to show who you are, and it explains who you are, so that if you give it to somebody, it's not a long, drawn out, detailed document, but it sells you as a person. It's your little sales pitch of who you are. Being able to produce a good resume is important. So start thinking about the things in life you've achieved, and sometimes as a young person, you might not have done a lot of work, but you've done a lot of volunteer things. You've done a lot of practical things. You've been successful at school in different areas. It might be on the sporting field, or it could be in some sort of academic way. But there are things that you've done that set you apart from others. The other thing you need to do is do a cover letter. So if you're setting up a cover letter, cover letters don't need to be long. Be courteous and polite. Ask a few questions in your cover letter, but you're more likely to get a response if you've asked some questions. Provide your name, address, and contact numbers. Have an introduction, a middle, and an end. So just like you'd write an assignment for school, you can write a really good cover letter just by sticking to those few simple rules. When you're selling yourself in an interview situation, some of the things that you can think about, or how you can sell yourself in these situations, is, are you a team player? How do you handle conflict? What are you dreaming of? What skills do you have? Are you a problem solver? What challenges have you overcome in your life? All of these things are of interest to an employer. And finally, just a few points on your interview. If you've got to go for a job interview, check and record the date and time. Make sure you get that right. There's nothing turns an employer off more than when a prospective employee is late, or they forget, or they get the wrong date and they don't turn up. Find out information about the employer and their business. Know a bit about them before you go into the interview. Check the location of the interview and where to go. So if you're meeting them somewhere, at a cafe or at their business or at an office, go there the night before and check where you've got to be, so you know how to get there and where to go once you get there. Work out what would be appropriate clothing. So it doesn't mean you have to wear a suit for an interview, certainly not in the building industry, but what should you wear? What would be appropriate to the job that you're applying for? Come up with some questions for the employer. When would you like me to start? And projecting to the employer that you're going to get this job. So when you go into the interview, to ask those sorts of questions is making an assumption that you're going to get this job. So come up with some good questions. Think about the questions they will ask you and some of the answers that you might need to have. So if you can preempt the questions and again, ask your careers teachers, ask your parents, ask us, what are questions an employer might ask that you could answer, and then be your best self. That's the best thing you could do for any job, is be your best self. If you be yourself, you only have to live up to yourself. If you try and be something you're not, becomes very hard to live up to that every day at work. So these are just some of the tips that you can have in order to move into the building industry. We're going to give you an assignment to do where you need to fill in the gaps, and hopefully this video will help you. You can come back to this video, pause it where you need to fill in the gaps. And just remember, we're here to help. We want to help you. Good luck with that. Contact your teacher if you need some support or some help with the work that you've got to do, and good luck in the future. It's been great talking to you. Cheers.